going on, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Cover with your author, Henry W. Taylor II, author of The Last Descendant Origins, and also The Rise of Tour. Right? So we just gonna get into it today. We're gonna talk about character, and today's character we're gonna talk about Tour. And the reason we're gonna talk about Tour is because a lot of the feedback I've gotten for people who've read Origins is how intrigued they were with her character and how they liked her development and things like that. So I just want to give a little bit of backstory to Tour, a little bit more about who she is, and discuss about a little bit more about what she's about and her mindset and what drives her decision making. And I know a lot of you, were introduced to Tour as a behind the scenes character, because Tour's first introduction is just a voice over a phone. But she's kind of moving the pieces here and there, and when you finally get to see Tour in person, her first act, what I'm saying, is very aggressive, very ruthless. You know what I mean? So that's a thing that continues throughout Origins, and everybody's trying to figure out, like, yo, what's going on with this woman, right? But you know what they say, hell has no fury like a woman scorned. So that's when I decided, you know what, my first prequel to Origins is gonna be about Tour. And some of you may know I pushed it out. I was talking about doing short stories as character developments as I work on the follow-up book to Origins. And I started with Tour first because Tour's character was one that was already at the forefront of my mind on how I wanted her to develop going forward, but also what drove her to the point that she's at right now. And so in The Rise of Tour, which is also available now, what I did was I went ahead and started off with Tour as a teen and walked through that process. And one of the things is that Tour's family has been a part of the network for years, centuries, almost since the beginning. And that's something that she's kind of delving into and understanding. So as we go into her backstory, we understand that she's not new to the network. Her dad was on the network, her grandfather was on the network. Like she has been in this world since she was born. She didn't really become a central figure in this world maybe to about her teenage years because of some decisions she had to make that she felt needed to be done in order to protect her family. But as you start to see her development, you start to understand that a lot of the actions that Tour makes and a lot of decisions that she makes has really nothing to do with Tour herself. Tour is actually doing this on behalf of a family lineage or a family legacy that she feels that she has to advance and protect. So as we go into the development of Tour's character and the development of Tour's ruthlessness that we see in Origins and the rise of Tour, you start to understand that Tour's identity itself hasn't been explored. Tour herself hasn't determined who she is and what her identity is, because it's all tied back to the legacy that she feels she has to keep, advance, and protect. And I did that on purpose because there's a lot of us who go through things in life and we make decisions based off of what we feel our family needs or what we feel the next step needs, what our job needs. And so a lot of our identity is not really our identity. We don't have an identity outside of how we're perceived, all right? What our role is. So I took that psychological perspective of how we as people look at our own identities, and I tied it back into Tour. So you'll start to notice as the story progresses that Tour's identity will start to come out more. She'll start discovering more of herself over her lineage. Now she has a few things that she's been able to attach herself to, like her love for her son and her care for other characters in the book. But Tour herself is something that we're going to continue to develop. And as you start to look through the challenges that she faced in life, and one of the things that I tried to stay true to in developing Tour's character is introducing real scenarios with a fictional twist, per se. So you'll get to experience how, what she was going through during Hurricane Katrina, and what that looked like and how that helped develop her and what moves she made during that time frame. You get a bigger look at how she, set up her family, set up her operations based off of those types of situations, uh, and her run-ins with characters who are prominent and who had lineages prominent in history. So one of her good friends, Lena White, is in a book, but her descendant was a matron. She ran a brothel in New Orleans. So you'll get to see all these different nuances of Tour as she develops as a character, as she takes on more of a central role in the series, and you get to really gain an understanding and a feeling for her personality, and resonate with her through the rise of Tour. And one of the things that I was hoping to engage with throughout the rise of Tour is bringing the audience in to feel like they had a connection with Tour, to the point where I wanted the audience to be like, I'm pissed off too. So by the time they read Origins, they understand why she's pissed off, and they're right there with her, right? But it's all just part of her development and her story. And in her story, you also notice that there's a few other characters that will make continuous appearances inside of her life. So you'll see how central they are to who she is and her development as a character, which is important for her development. So that's was my ideology going in. I didn't want to leave anybody out, and as we develop, you'll start to notice some overlap in the story of Tour, because you have to understand that Origins is written from a different perspective, and Tour is written more from the perspective of Tour. So a lot of the situations, for instance, there's a story that Jermaine talks about on his introduction to Tour and how he met Tour. And in his version of the story, excuse me, it went one way. But as you read the rise of Tour, you'll see the scenario play out, but you'll see it from Tour's perspective and which way it actually went before it tied into Jermaine meeting Tour. So that's going to be important, because as I develop the stories, each of these characters' run-ins and these different scenarios of where they meet or situate and they interlock will have a small twist onto it based off the character's perspective. And that's what I did with that situation. There's another situation with Jason and daydreaming, and he's reminiscing about a situation of being in the pool with Tour. Well, his telling of the development of the story in Origins is slightly different than development of the story in the rise of Tour. Same scenario, same situation, but a different perspective. And another reason I kind of made sure that I had these different imbalances inside the story that's still connected is because our minds sometimes tell us what was real, and as over time, how we see it is differently. So I wanted to show that different people remember things differently depending on where they were. So the story isn't inaccurate, it's just different. But the end result of that story all comes into play. And it was fun to write. Then another one is there's a moment where Jermaine mentions like he doesn't know how Tour met Jason. I introduced that to everybody. So Jermaine doesn't understand how Tour met Jason, but Tour knows how she met Jason. And I put that into Tour's development and her story of how she met Jason. And that really helped push the narrative forward, because if you read Origins, you would think that Jason and Jermaine were just homies from the beginning, but you get to see how they started to develop a little bit of their relationship. And what I didn't want to get too much into was their camaraderie and their development as friendships, because the story wasn't centrally about them, it was about Tour. And I wanted to keep the focus on Tour as she developed. So there's a lot of things that may have happened behind the scenes to help develop their characters and help develop their relationship that we won't get to see until I write the backstories for their characters, because I wanted to keep the focus strictly on Tour and how Tour's rise to power and how Tour's development and who she became when we introduced her in Origins uh, all came into play. Even to the point where the rise of Tour ends right before Origins begin. And for each book, that's probably where we're going to stop the story as we do the character development. It's right before Origins begin, because I'm trying to bring you guys caught up to that point. And you'll see Tour develop. So Tour is very savvy. She's very cunning from a young age. She's strategic. She's smart. She plays off your weaknesses. But she also has an emotional care and a tie to those who are close around her. She's not going to let them get taken advantage of, and she's going to do what she can to protect them. And you'll get to see a lot of that as she starts to develop her character. But Tour is also very sneaky. And some of the things that she does, when you look at it, it's not always on the up and up. You know what I mean? So when you really looking at some of the stuff, you can be like, yo, she's grimy, yo. But what's the end result? She gets results. But it's just kind of how she does things. And to her, she understands that there may be a little bit of foul play in what she's doing, but the cause and the reason behind what she's doing far outweighs the minor details of what she's getting herself engrossed into right now. So you'll see her go on her up and down balances, you know what I'm saying, on how she's doing things, but that's just part of her character, you know, trying to really hone in on what she needs and what she wants, and how to achieve what she wants. She has that ruthless ambition that we cannot deny, and that continues to play out in everything that she does, no matter how she does it. You know, she doesn't hold her tongue. She's very forthcoming when it comes to saying what's on her mind, but she also knows that in order to move forward, she can't reveal all her cards. And she got a lot of cards at stake, and a lot of cards that people don't see on how she moves behind the scenes. But she makes moves that people would fear and they resonate with. Another development of Tour that I really enjoyed writing into the story, because of the person that I kind of based some of Tour's mannerism off of, was her care and her protection for women. No matter how ruthless a person is, no matter what their ambitions and their drive is, one of the things, they always have that one thing that they're passionate about and that they really want to take care of. And for Tour, that's women and women in power. So she's a very big advocate for women in power, making sure that women gets what they deserve, and that women are taken care of and not taken advantage of. So you'll get to see some of that in the Rise of Tour and how that comes to play. But that's one of the things that's central to who she is. You know what I'm saying? Seeing herself as a powerful figure, as a powerful woman on the council for the network. She also believes that women should have just as much say, just as much power and authority as men. So she's a big advocate for that. And because of that reputation that she has for protecting and taking care of women, she gets a lot of things done by women in the community, because they know at the end the Tour is going to take care of them. Her reputation precedes her in that aspect. So that's one of the things I really wanted to tie in, like I said, because based off of who, some of the mannerisms of who I developed her character off of, that was a central touch point that I needed to put into her story, and bring that human sense to who she is, because she's not just this person that's just completely ruthless. She has a soft spot. You know what I'm saying? Whether you get to see it or not depends on who you are and where you are in her life. But for the most part, she does what she has to do to keep things going. So that was a good touch point, and when I was trying to make sure that she had some kind of human characteristics, because you know everybody wants a character that they can relate to. I wanted to make sure that it was something that can draw people in. Like if you read the Game of Thrones, or if you've ever watched the series, a lot of women were drawn to Khaleesi because of how she started out, her development as a character, her powerfulness and her rise to power, just her demeanor as a strong woman. A lot of women were drawn to Khaleesi. And that's one of the things that I want people to kind of see with Tour. I'm not saying that you have to resonate with her in the same sense, because they're two different worlds, but at the same time, be drawn into who she is as a woman navigating this world that's mostly dominated by men, that has developed her to be the ruthless, not taking anything from anybody woman that she is, but also have that softer, sensitive side that not very many people get to see, understand, as she develops to the character that we are introduced to in Origins and beyond. So that's just my thing about Tour. I think the next story that we have in development is Jermaine. It's called The Birth of the Assassin. So working on that title a little bit, but Jermaine's character story is next. And if you guys have anything else you want to discuss, talk about Tour, you got any questions about Tour, any specifics about Tour, let's get into it. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, drop me a comment, like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see what we can do to get you, all caught up with all your answers and questions, to answers to questions you have about Tour. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I'll see you guys later, Beyond the Cover.